Hi, this is Nancy with Quilting with Nancy. Thank you very much for joining me for our new project. So behind me, you see the project almost done. I've got this bottom half to go, but I'm calling this Winter Blues. Now, you might notice the way I'm dressed, it doesn't seem like it's winter outside, and it's not. We're pretty much in the middle of the summer right now, but I think this is the type of project that you're going to want to start now so you can have it ready for the winter. Now, this particular project, I'm doing it as a large queen size quilt, but the most important and fun part about the process I'm going to teach you is this will be done with quilt as you go. Now, we'll cover that in very detailed instructions, and it's what I call my easy sashings, quilt as you go on point, because everybody knows quilts are just better when they're done on point. So let me show you some pictures of some projects, the process and the supplies that we will need so that you'll be ready when we start airing the videos. The videos, there'll probably be about 5 or 6 of them, and they'll air weekly coming up on my YouTube channel. And that YouTube channel, Quilting with Nancy, pretty easy to remember. So this is what the quilt can look like. So the one behind me was done with blues and silvers and kind of a cold wintry sort of a look. But this one I did a little bit more patriotic with the red and the white and a little bit of gold. And what I really want you to notice is the sashing options. And this would be your option, whether or not you're doing the winter blues in the wintry kind of colors or whatever other color you choose. The picture on the left is one where the sashing is the same color as the background in the quilt. And so that sort of makes the blocks float. There is no solid hard edge to those blocks. And I think that's really cool when there's those points that are in these designs. I think that that looks really cool. And I guess the reason I called mine Winter Blues is because they remind me of snowflakes. But when I started designing this in the red, white, and blue, I got to thinking, you know what? These stars and stripes, it's Olympic season, all of that made sense to me to do it in a red, white, blue, and gold. Now, on the right, I added a colored sashing. Now, that's not how mine is done in the back, but I want you to know that there's options. When you do it this way, it looks a little bit more like a traditional quilt, which I really love the way that this turned out. I'm really happy with it. Now, here's just a couple of other color options. Just did this on EQ, just ran it through the randomizer, and these were some pretty color options, I thought, so that you'll be able to have the idea, maybe you want to do something totally different. Now, keep in mind in the book, all of these options will be printed, so you'll be able to kind of see what the options would be depending on what color you want to do. And then in the book also will be line drawings of all the blocks that you can color in and choose any colors you want. I also thought that possibly somebody wouldn't want to make the biggest version. The biggest ones are like 85 inches, which is about a queen size quilt. And I thought it'd be kind of cute to show you what it would be like if you just made 5 blocks. Try out the technique, see what you think about it. These are not what I would consider beginner foundation paper piece designs. But do I think anybody can do them? Yes, I can. It's just going to take a little bit of time and I guess patience even working on these blocks because some of the pieces are quite small, as you'll see here. So this is a close up of block 1 and block 2. And you can see these are a 12-inch block. And so looking at it as a 12-inch block, you can see that there's a lot of detail involved here. Now, I did have the blocks beta tested by some friends, so I'm really confident, crossing my fingers, that the patterns are all as they should be. So everything should work out. You should have enough fabric using the add an eighth ruler. Now, this is block 5 and 6. So there are 6 blocks in the quilt. You can make as many or as little of them as you want and design a quilt of your choosing. But because this is done in an easy sashing quilt as you go method, what I really loved is that the quilting is all done with straight lines. You don't have to be phenomenal at free motion quilting. You can do this quilt with all straight lines on your sewing machine with a walking foot. You do that, and you're going to have these fabulous quilts, these blocks that you'll be able to put together. You can't really do a quilt like this with all of the straight lines if it's not done quilt as you go. Now, if you want to make any one of these like this and quilt it yourself with traditional methods, that would be totally up to you. I'm going to show you it with the quilt as you go technique, so then you'll have options. Now, if you like foundation piecing, here's just a couple of other patterns that I've done with videos. So if you go to my YouTube channel and look up Snowflake or Paradise Lone Star, you're going to see these and the books and the videos for them. These were also done with the add an eighth ruler, giving it the smaller seam, which is so helpful because the seams are smaller. And if you use your add a quarter or a larger seam allowance, you will end up sewing a seam on a seam, and that can get rather bulky. So if possible, you're going to want to get that add an eighth ruler. Here's a couple of other ones. This is the mini Snowflake, which also came in the same book as the Paradise and Lone Star. And this one is just done with one diamond that was quite small. That whole quilt is only 20 inches, and it was super fun to make. And then there's the birds in the air, and that was done with foundation piecing also. So you could check those out if you want to on my YouTube channel and see, what versions you want to make. And here is the supplies, and this is really important. I want you to be able to collect all your supplies ahead of time, so as we go forward, you have what you need. So first is the add an eighth from CM Design. This is the ruler that is going to trim your blocks to the 1/8 inch seam allowance, which not only is going to be a smaller seam allowance so your quilt won't be so bulky, but it also means using this ruler that your placement is going to be so much easier. So depending on how you've ever done foundation paper piecing in the past, if you've never used the add a quarter or add an eighth ruler, you will be really surprised how precise everything will get. Then there's the Carol Doak foundation paper. This is what I generally use for making the copies of my foundation. It's lighter weight, easier to tear off. You can kind of see through it. So this would be my recommendation. Then there's the 28 millimeter rotary cutter. Now that blade on that rotary cutter is only about the size of a quarter. This particular one is by OmniGrid, and I really like it because the blade is protected by that little push away kind of on the back side. You'll see me use it, so you'll understand what I mean, but especially with foundation piecing, because it's all kind of done in a more cramped location, I guess. It just really makes a big difference having that smaller blade. For the sizing, I'm going to recommend the Magic by Faultless spray sizing. It's a little bit newer on the market. If you're using one of the other spray sizings, you'll be fine too. But this one is turned into my favorite pretty quickly. Not only because I think the liquid is just right for everything that I like to do, but the nozzle on this bottle is fabulous. It's just my most favorite. I love that when I spray it, it's not leaking on me. I've never had it leak on me. And the spray comes out and it saturates the block just the way I like it. And then up at the top, that's the heat press batting together in a 3/4 inch wide. And that's what we use for the easy sashings quilt as you go techniques. Now, all of these supplies are available at Fireside Quilts, so you can go to Fireside Quilts and pick up those. She will also have the kits that we need for making the quilt. So if you're wanting to purchase a kit exactly like what mine is going to be in the back, then you can get that from Fireside Quilts. So I hope that you're ready for this big project. I'll give you a little bit of time. About next week, we'll air the next one. It'll give you enough time to get all your supplies together. The book will be available on my website, which is www.quiltingwithnancy.com. In case that sounds a little different to you past viewers, we had been on point-tv.com, and we finally just decided it was time to do it. Switch it all over to Quilting with Nancy. And so it's all there. Our YouTube is Quilting with Nancy. The Facebook is Quilting with Nancy. And the website. Yep, that's also quiltingwithnancy.com. So you can find the book there, all my other past books. So I really hope that you'd like to join us for this. If you have any comments or questions along the way, you can always leave them in the comments section on YouTube, or you can send me an email at quiltingwithnancy@gmail.com. I hope to see you soon when the videos start really diving into the process.